One wanted me to do massive production on it, but again, just the samples that were coming through weren't good enough. And I've been doing it for over 2 years now, and the customers I have know how it tastes, and I want to stay as loyal to that as possible. And I care about the product, especially because I'm making it myself. Each one has got to be good. I'm selling flavour, so it's got to have flavour in it.
Oh, I'm selling flavour, yes.
If you want to be healthier and have simple food, you're tired at the end of the day, just chuck on a couple of spoons. That was the thinking behind it, but still something you could have every day. To make simple food more saucy.
Nina, thank you so much for doing this. Apologies for the sort of last minute hurdles.
Oh my God, no, it's fine.
I basically, for listeners, rocked up and forgot the most important thing for podcasting, which is your SD cards. And I was fucking messaging my editor like, mate, wagwan, I need to find these. And it just sods law that there's actually a Ryman's over the road.
Yeah,
so yeah, we've managed to make it all happen. But yeah, like I know we met very briefly a couple of years ago. I think when I did the shoot with Amelia from Bold Bean, you were cooking up a whole sort of cornucopia of delicious dishes, and I think I just was stuffed my face that day before we even hit record. Followed you since. I love your content. You've obviously got a massive following. Love your recipes, but I also love what you're doing with Saucy. The name's genius, and I really want to, as we were sort of messaging, get into speak to other founders who are in the trenches, who are in sort of trying to get through each day with avoiding the muck and bullets as it is. And yes, I'm excited to talk the whole smorgasbord of different things these days. So thanks for doing this.
Well, thank you for having me. It's such an honour. I listen to your podcast anyway. It keeps me inspired and so many great ideas and people talking on it. So yeah, I'm very happy to be here and give any knowledge. I'm definitely in the trenches. So I love it when you said that, because I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it's like.
You like to hold it a little bit. Yeah, yeah. That'd be great. No, for sure. And I think what I want to talk about is, first, I think the best place to start is your love of food, your insatiable love of food, and then we can sort of weave into Saucy, because that was very much a byproduct of your passion and your curiosity. A bit like Amelia, to be honest.
Yeah.
And one thing I've been reading about, or kind of obsessing with at the minute, is there's this writer called Marcel Proust, right? A Parisian writer. And he talks about Proustian moments, which are these sort of moments in life that really make everything sort of come alive and you really experience it. So it could be, you start really experiencing instead of just living. And so it could be something like the smell of freshly made grass, right? Just bear with me. This sounds like we're going a bit crazy here, right? Bear with me. It could be, what his exact example is the smell of freshly baked madeleines in Paris. I know you wrote a book.
Love it.
Yeah, I know you wrote a book on.
I'm there for the madeleines.
Exactly. I know you wrote a book and a tour guide in Paris. That's why I wanted to start here. And yeah, he talks just about these moments of it could be you smell some perfume and it takes you back to your grandma, or you listen to a song and it immediately reminds you of someone, or a period of time, right? I would love to know what some of those in food, you cook so many different recipes. What are the real moments that sort of, or dishes you create that sort of give you that sort of feeling of really being in the moment and aware? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And yes, I do love Paris. Love so many things French. And funnily enough, I would say it probably is, I've spent a lot of time in the south of France and I have grown up going there, and that has shaped my sort of love of food and early beginnings with food and the kind of Mediterranean style cooking, and it just being the ingredients that, they're so abundant with good quality ingredients, and that it's sort of an easy style of cooking. And growing up, I went to a lot of restaurants with my grandma around in the south of France who loved, so it's sort of just outside Saint-Tropez, somewhere called Port Grimaud. And definitely, I kind of have memories. I mean, even the smell of that place is so sort of salty, dry smell, which you see air, but also from the heat in the summer and August. And I just love that part of France so much. And I used to go with my grandma a lot to a lot of restaurants around there. And she would take me to have she was obsessed with creme brulee and creme caramel and that kind of stuff. And
what's the difference between creme brulee and creme caramel?
Creme caramel.
Yeah.
So creme brulee is the one you crack on top with which has got the sort of sugar coating which you blowtorch.
Yeah.
And she was very sort of fair, and she would always crack it very equally, half with her spoon. I'm half Polish, and this was my Polish grandmother. And she introduced me to kind of the love of food, I would say. She was obsessed, and she'd have oysters out there, and always prawns and with Calvados, fried in Calvados, that kind of thing.
What's Calvados?
Brandy.
Right.
And yeah, I'd say those kind of memories, one, take me to the south of France, but also she introduced me to kind of those rich flavours, and also the restaurant scene. My parents weren't as into going to restaurants as her, and yeah, and also her love of ice cream. There was an incredible ice cream place there, so I'd say that. And I did have an ice cream van in my 20s, really, because I just loved sort of well-made ice cream. And so this place in France did old school ice cream desserts, waffles, a gaufre d'homme blanche, which is whipped cream, vanilla ice cream, and it would be served with a hot with a pot of hot dark chocolate sauce and toasted almonds. And those kind of my early food-ish.
That's your Proustian moment then.
Yeah.
And also I think for the Brits is one thing, we're recording this in snotty, grey, miserable London today, but one Proustian moment is the 99p flake. You hear the ice cream van.
Yes.
Pretty much everyone in the UK understands that and knows that. And, with the strawberry sauce.
Yeah.
I'm a glutton, 2-3 flakes in that fucker. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But those are it. And I love that I can just sort of imagine, you kind of going to these restaurants with your grandma, and the ice cream van I wanted to talk about that because that sounds fascinating. But why was your grandma such a good guest to go to restaurants with versus your parents?
She was passionate about food. She
right.
loved, and she just loved Polish food is quite rich, and
sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Right. So you listened to the Roy Southern episodes we've done.
I've listened to one of them.
Yeah. So one of the things I was talking about is Polish Nando's, how you'd create a Polish Nando's. It was a stupid question, right? But it was kind of to get him to get him thinking, because the Polish food isn't known as well as French food.
No.
Right, exactly. French food's got this whole romanticism. Again, people like Proust writing about fucking, freshly made madeleines.
Totally.
Polish food doesn't have that food, so
it's because it's quite heavy.
Talk to me about Polish food. What are you actually eating?
I mean, it's quite stodgy, and I would probably be criticised for saying that because it's moved on a lot since then. But the dumplings and the donuts, and I mean it's so cold there. So through the winters you need heavy, sort of very hearty food to get through these minus temperatures. So it is kind of built around that, and a lot of potato, and jellied eel, and not typically what say British people would hone in on. And I think that when my grandma had a real love for France and the South, and she just she dined out properly out there and loved it, and she loved bringing me or my sister or one of my brothers out with her, and it would always be a little date, the two of us together, and it would always be such a treat, that whole experience. And she knew the restaurant owners, and they loved her, and they'd know to order to make sure they had oysters cooked in champagne for her. I mean, she loved the finer things in life.
Yeah. She sounds like an amazing woman, and I like people who indulge in the sort of the jazz of life, which is
she loved it. The pate,
the champagnes and oysters is the jazz of life for sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're getting involved in that. And then, how did she end up in France then?
She just...
So she vacationed.
Yeah.
So I sounded like a yank there. Vacay.
Vacation.
Yeah. Did she holiday?
So she lived in London, and then her husband loved France and also spoke French, and she told my parents about these flats that were going to be going up for sale, which were in this place called Port Grimaud, just outside, between like Nice, very close to Saint-Tropez. And then my parents ended up getting one of these flats.
Right.
And they actually met on the beaches in Juan-le-Pin, my parents.
You've got the nice French accent on you. I wish I could do that. Je m'appelle Daniel, but as far as it goes. But and I think just trying to get that. What I'm trying to get is some context is to this sort of this rich love of food, and like even today, you know, you've cooked. Was it lasagna? Like. And when we did the stuff with Amelia,
I probably did a lasagna then too. I have a thing. I think it was a lasagna, and then maybe some noodle dish.
Yes,
with beans, of course.
Yeah. Loads of bold beans in there. But I remember, like it's a lot of work. You know, you see these one reel, like it's a shit ton of work. So I'm trying to get into the labour of love. The ice cream van you had. Talk to me about that period. So you're in your 20s.
Yes.
Why did you set up an ice cream van?
So I'd worked in restaurants for about 3 years.
Nice.
And I, didn't... I just thought, okay, I've done enough.
Chef.
Yeah. Worked in mainly Italian restaurants, and then one French.
Which restaurants? Restaurants.
So mainly in Lanima, which is a restaurant which shut, I think, around... beginning of lockdown.
Yeah.
It was around for about 10 years. Amazing Italian restaurant in the city. And the head chef was Francesco Marzei. He was like the first. He let me into his kitchen when I knew nothing, and just was like, so very lovable Italian. I mean, he'll laugh at me saying this, but just there was something terrifying. But he's also kind of Calabrian, so that makes sense.
Calabrian.
Sort of like very south of Italy, like right opposite Sicily.
Yeah.
So you're quite tough because you come from there.
Well, that's interesting because I interviewed Margot Henderson, and she was talking about sort of females working in kitchens, and like she said, I felt like I was walking into blokedom, as in like the kingdom of blokes. And so then you've got this kind of this Calabrian chap who's traditionally kind of hard and toughened by living from that area, who then is soft and open and warm to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, describe what it's like as a female when you walk through the kitchen the first time in the city. Like, paint that picture. What does that seem like?
I mean, if I think about it now, I should have been pretty terrified, and I just, but like many things in my life, I just kind of don't think about things too much and just go for it. So I met someone at Wimbledon when I was working at the tennis, and he said, I know this amazing Italian restaurant, because I just said, maybe I'll be someone's sous chef. I'd just left uni, and I had no idea of the sort of hierarchy of a kitchen, and because obviously sous chef's bloody hard.
What is sous chef is...
just below head chef.
Because what have you got? You've got commis,
or chef de partie. Then chef de partie, and then sous chef. And then you've got head chef.
Sous chef's basically a vice captain.
Yeah, basically it's just like another head chef.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I'll be a head sous chef, no problem. How hard can it be? Zero idea.
Yeah.
And then he said, I'll introduce you to this guy, Francesco. He's really lovely. And I met up with him in his restaurant, and he just said, have you got any chef experience? I said, no, but I'm really into it. And he's like, it's cool. If you've got a passion for it, we'll teach you everything else.
Wow.
And now when I look back, I think that was so great of him to be so open-minded. And I mean, I did do a trial so that he could see I wasn't totally bad. But I mean, I really was basic.
What was the trial?
I think I just spent a day there I think I was in pastries. Yeah, probably in the pastry section at first. And I think just not being a total idiot helped. I don't know, but I probably was.
Yeah.
And but he was so sweet, and he's like, cool, well, why don't you do a stage, which is sort of work experience for a bit. And then being of restaurants, the turnover's so quick. So within 2 months, I was someone had quit and I was thrown into starters, and it was hardcore. And I was the only female in that kitchen at that point. I think it was 11 Italian men and me. And I didn't speak any Italian apart from like, yeah, bene sì, and
was bene sì
or just like, oh, good, or yes, and they were like, si, chef. But no, I spoke Spanish, and that did not help. I thought it would, but it didn't. And they're like, why are you speaking to us in Spanish? It's not. This is Italian. I was like, oh, it's not. How people say it's really similar. So, but no, they didn't like that. But it was incredible, and I always felt. I think it's changed so much now, the restaurant industry, and like being a woman working in a kitchen is it's not the same as it was. Like, so I was doing it in 2012, so it's very different now. And I feel that they're welcomed a bit more, and it's not so, but it is very macho. At that point it was, I remember, I was probably a real princess when I joined. That's fine, I can admit that. And like, I'd burn my hand, and I'd be like, I've hurt myself.
Yeah.
And we'd be like in the service, and they'd be like, whoa, die, which means like, keep going, go faster, Nini, you're so slow. And I'd be thinking, I'm going really fast.
Yes.
I think that I was going not nearly as fast as you had to during a service. And I remember like at Christmas, I had cuts all over my hands and burns, and Francesco would be like, let's see your hands. Okay, fine. You're a chef now. Because they were swollen and red and, not looking great.
I love that.
It's
so
that kind of macho.
You walked in a princess.
Yeah.
What did you walk out as?
Well, hopefully a lot more, a lot tougher and more discipline, and I'd be on the floor scrubbing, and it definitely takes, brings you down a few levels, and it just made me not afraid of any hard work, really.
Describe again, I think this is another thing that's, I've just never really explored with anyone, but it's like, so I want to understand from your perspective, because I've interviewed a lot of chefs, so I understand the perspective of the head chef running the brigade, right? And like how to get people working hard. Like Paul Ainsworth's got a wonderful. I went down to his restaurant. I went on my own. Long story, but anyway, was going through.
That's so nice though, going and like having a meal.
Yeah, it was. But I basically, so this is when the podcast had just started. So I was going through a bit of a rough patch, and so I just needed some headspace. So then I went to Paul Ainsworth's restaurant on my ones, and I felt like a bit of a div because I'm like, I have a Michelin star meal on my Larry.
Treat yourself.
Yeah, treat myself. It actually worked out quite well because I got piddled on site on craft beers, and it gave me the courage to ask, saying, I was like, mate, I've got a podcast. I was like, it's called Angry, yeah? I was like, love to speak to Paul. And then, long story longer, I eventually got hold of Paul, so it was worth it. But I looked through the kitchen, it's like they plopped me quite literally where I needed to be, and I could see straight into the kitchen. I saw the silver glistening and glittering Michelin thing.
What, as in Michelin star?
They had not the red certificates they have, but like it was just a Michelin star thing through the kitchen. I could see all the chefs slaving away, and there's a quote on the wall, and it says, "We make it happen. Full stop. We make it happen together." And it's like that. So I understand, and I've talked to it from Paul's perspective, talked to Thomas Drake about how to mobilise and galvanise teams. I would love to know from your perspective as I don't mean this in a derogatory way, as a princess in a no, but
I really set myself up.
No, but as in I mean that in an encouraging way, because you've walked into this world of macho men, and you've come out stronger from that situation.
Yeah.
But you were saying you were behind people, it was slow, but you thought you were going fast. Like, just talk to me through that.
I just think it's a whole culture that I had no idea about. And I'd worked in restaurants as a waitress before, and I thought, I just think it's being completely ignorant to the whole side of that, all, in the kitchen world. And I think, there's, it just, hit me hard. I think the first 3 weeks, I didn't really cry, but I did cry there. And I remember, I think I was crying behind the bins one time. I mean, not cool, and a low point. And but then it's sort of, as you say, there's this wonderful camaraderie in the kitchen as you talk about a team. And I loved the guys. They were amazing. And because I was the only woman in the kitchen, I was a bit of a novelty. So they were so kind and lovely. And I did some funny things about, I'd obviously, if I set the fire alarm off in the building one time, which was a big building, there were loads of, because it was the city, there was all these different offices above, and they just knew it was me, and I tried to hide it and cover it up, but they were always so kind, I think, because I was a bit of a novelty, but I think, I think to work in the kitchen, it teaches you this really great discipline, and that has helped me in business as well. And just not being, toughening up, and maybe sometimes too tough about things, because I've sort of learned this very...
Too tough about things,
just pushing myself too much and not having an off switch, and just always be I've got the energy. Yeah, I can do it. I don't need to stop. And I have that.
And you get that, do you get that sort of frenetic energy from being in the kitchen?
You never stop. You never stop, and you're exhausted, and it's sort of celebrated in a way, that kind of, it's so labor intensive because you're on your feet the whole time, and it's almost like you cut yourself and you've not done anything about it, and well done you. A little bit, you're tough enough, there is a little bit of that, and it's maybe, I think it definitely has changed. I don't think it's probably maybe as bad as that, but it is, I think that's been instilled in me, so that when I can push myself too much and, not get burnt, but I've, and I think that's pushed me, I've maybe had panic attacks because of that, because I've always been but I can take on this. Yes, I can take on this. Because being a chef, you are taught about juggling a ton of things at the same time. I can have 5 things going at the same time, my cooking at the same time, for example, and that's cool because you've got to be like that. And weirdly, that's sort of gone into my life a bit, and
I relate to that so much as well, because it's the I think ultimately, if you've got the spectrum of relentless discipline and taking on too much and beating yourself up for doing some great things, you want to be, if that's the spectrum, and the spectrum here is sat on the sofa doing fuck all day, right? You'd rather be this way, for sure. Oh, sorry, on the right hand side for listeners. But the detriment of that is you can bludgeon yourself to the bone of just working too hard.
Yeah.
And
being a bit of a workaholic.
Yeah. But also I think, I've got this at the minute. It's as I was saying to you before, the founder of Minor Figures, the oat milk brand. Yeah. He's got a quote, and I sort of talk about this a lot, which is bite off more than you can chew, and then chew like hell. And I've been basically, I say that to myself a lot, as I can just take on more. So obviously, I've got 3 pods this week. Got got 2 supper clubs coming up, and I'm sort of thinking, am I going fucking nuts?
You've got supper clubs coming up.
We've got one with come to that actually with Giles Brook in the Draper's Arms in Islington.
Okay, nice.
Was there on Saturday having a few drinks. It looks pretty sick.
It's really nice.
Have you been? Is the food good?
I haven't eaten there, but I've been for drinks there.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of nice big open spaces.
Yeah.
Very on brand. But I get that feeling of just not knowing how to sort of turn it off. And so when you said you had sort of panic attacks, like how outside of the kitchen in the city, like when did that manifest?
That specifically I had when I was doing my cookbook, my third cookbook, and I would be just had these weird deadlines in my head. Oh, it's got to be out this time, because I self-published the third one, which was called Saucy, and I had in my mind, oh, it's got to be in time for the Christmas market, and that meant I put together a book in 8 months, which is kind of
How long does it usually take, or should, like, what's the usual?
I mean, definitely a year.
Yeah.
Around a year. Yeah. So I cut myself short quite a bit, and it just. Then I was also doing Instagram and some catering, and and then I was on holiday with my family in France, and I was having the panic attacks there, and they're like, why are you having it? We're like in this, and I was doing X, you just do too much, basically. And now I know not to. I try and check myself a bit and not.
How do you do that?
I plan my weeks a lot better.
Right.
So I have like rest time, a bit more chilled time worked in there. And if I have like a week where I'm working in the kitchen a lot, I'm like, okay, maybe don't do exercise, as well. Don't go running and play tennis, or, because it's all too much. Yeah,
the full shebang, yeah. I'm just sort of, as I sort of did, these are sort of very sort of self-therapeutic, these podcasts and or therapy sessions.
Yeah, you have to make the time, and I think what's been really, really helpful recently for me is I've planning my week, 1 or 2 weeks before of what I'm going to do. So I plan specific like time where I'm going to chill. Whereas before I just say yes to everything and then not do, and then feel not great about it. And now I just feel so much calmer about my weeks, and they're still busy, but I've factored in that time better. I mean, this might be really obvious to most people, but I will.
It's not. It's not even. No, it's just. But it's sometimes the obvious things are the ones that people ignore the most.
Yeah.
To be honest, you could sit around and people will think, if I just download this fucking AI software, I can do 100 more things. Don't need to, which actually is just like actually just planning some rest. Let's go back to the ice cream van.
Yeah,
because I love ice cream. I mean, who doesn't love ice cream? What's your favourite flavour of ice cream?
So I love. I mean, this sounds boring, but I assure you, it is not boring. I love vanilla.
Okay, well, fuck me. You've got lots to unpack here.
If you make a vanilla ice cream properly with like good quality ingredients, and I started making ice cream. Obviously, I had those sort of early years having it in France in the south, and like those old school desserts like the Gaufre Blanche or the peach melba or banana split, stuff like that. I always had that image of I'd love to have something that created those, with nice ingredients from scratch. And then when I worked at Lanimer, they had an ice cream machine, like a small one.
Lanimer's the
Italian restaurant
in the city. Yeah.
Yeah. So my first job that I went back to twice to work there, and they made. I just remember the ice cream they made there was just all simple ingredients, good quality, and it was like ice cream I'd never had before. I just thought, this is amazing. Like, I was obsessed.
How did it taste different?
It was the taste when it comes out straight from the machine. It's just like perfect scooping, consistency, and they did it so well. And I think maybe I also hadn't had homemade ice cream for a while. Probably when I got there, I'd just be having like anyone else from the supermarket.
Twister down the road. That's blasphemous to say that, you're having a fucking Twister. But they are pretty good to be fair.
But basically, or Haagen-Dazs. I'd probably have, something like that, or like, nothing that special. And when you start having it from a restaurant like that, I thought, oh God, maybe I should make something. And the markup with ice cream is really great. And so when I left Lanimer, I thought, I'm going to have an ice cream van. And I told my dad, and he was almost had a heart attack. He's like, what are you doing? Like, where's this going? And I bought a 1970s Citroen H van and, renovated it. And it was a ice cream and cake van. So I did all pastry as well. I was really into pastry at that stage. I mean, I still am, but specifically that was going to be the main focus.
What sort of pastry? Had you done the pastry section at?
Yeah, so I'd done pastry.
How's pastry different to... Because I mean...
More precise.
Yeah, I'd probably be hopelessly bad at that. But I think...
hate it.
Yeah, because there is a massive difference, isn't it? Because and I think... just talk to me about that and then we'll get back to the ice cream.
It's more scientific, I guess. But
yeah.
And, you can't just wing it. You've got to have the formula of how it's going to work. But once I just don't think it's that complicated. I feel like if you know it, you can just mix it up a bit as you go along. Not with vegan baking, that's the whole thing. That's a different structure of baking. But I just, love kind of classic cakes and tarts and things like that. I think if you do them simply without too much sugar, because I think a lot of people don't like desserts because they're too sweet. And what I learned in restaurants, it's just, again, it's quality of ingredients. And so I kind of had, and a lot of chefs don't like doing it because sort of savoury, I guess, chefs, or they don't like the faff. They're just like, oh no, I just want to chuck a bit of this. There's the recipe's in their head, whereas quite often with pastry, you do need to go back to the book and just be like, oh yeah, because there's quite a lot to remember, and they don't like the precision.
So would you say pastry's more sciencey than a less intuition?
That's what maybe some chefs would say. I mean, I don't think it's very sciencey. Yeah. It's more technical.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Okay, so what pastries did you have in your ice cream van?
So I did, all the kind of, what did I do? I mean, like pear chocolate frangipane tart, a load of different cupcakes. I would do lots of meringues, and then paired with ice cream and brownies, blondies.
Sounds like my kind of ice cream truck.
It was so fun.
What was the brand called?
It was just called Nina Ice Cream and Cake. Yeah. And then I could only really fit about 3 or 4 flavours of ice cream in there. But
what flavours?
They would change always, but this is why I'm saying vanilla, because I think if you do, and I would always serve it with like a hot dark chocolate sauce as well.
Yes.
And if you do those well, there was this restaurant called Racine. I don't know if you remember it, but it shut a while ago, but it was just on Brompton Road. And my uncle, so my Polish grandmother, her brother, who's also obsessed with food, he used to take us there, and the dessert was literally a couple of balls of vanilla ice cream, the hot dark chocolate sauce, whipped cream, and it was just so good.
Simple but effective.
Yes. And people have it and they just say, bloody hell, this is good. And and then you can always add more sauce, and honestly, that's my favourite ice cream every time. But I would do salted caramel, raspberry sorbet, all with a load of raspberries.
Yeah. Raspberries and white chocolate is what I really want to try, or I've tried them. Have you seen it's the Argentinian sort of delicacy, the fronipi or something, which is basically a raspberry, frozen raspberry, in white chocolate, in dark chocolate.
Oh wow!
Like there's a brand called Hidden Fruits. They're actually in M&S now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a challenger brand, but my friend was telling me about them from Argentina, and I love. I'd much rather eat just chocolate buns, to be honest. But if I'm trying to be, somewhat relatively healthy, then a raspberry covered in chocolate does the job, because they're like that, not like calories, and it's frozen.
Oh, nice.
But you basically let them set for. So not necessarily let them set. You let them kind of come to room temperature about 20 minutes.
A bit like the Little Moons.
Exactly. Yeah. Basically, kind of not too dissimilar. I think raspberries and white chocolate is
that is a good combination.
Otherworldly. So then you've got Nina's cakes and ice cream.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, ice cream and cake.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Where were you sort of selling that?
So I was doing like festivals, and I would do events, so people would hire the van out for like a party or something like that, or like a dinner. Sometimes I'd do a pop-up, and then I'd have that as the dessert. Like I did that a couple of times in Brixton, because they had this amazing space that I could drive the van in. And Yeah, it was so great. I mean, I cried when the van left my parents' house because I was, after lockdown or just before lockdown, it hadn't been used in a year, and I always said
Was it
to myself,
was the van at your parents' house?
Everything ends up at my parents' house.
Did you have a name for the van?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the van, but there was a lot of
the
love.
van. I love that. Yeah. All right. See you later. The van.
No,
Bon voyage, le van.
It only went 30 miles an hour, so I was on the motorway, and it was right drive because it was obviously French, and I would be.
Oh, that would confuse the hell out of me.
Yeah, it wasn't easy to drive, and it had the old everything, gear stick, and it was a workout to even drive it and with the gears.
Yeah.
But it did. It drove.
But I know how much graft that stuff is.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. But I only just sold the ice cream machine, which I sold like 2 weeks ago. Which was also very sad.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh, it's just these big pieces of equipment. Otherwise,
Was it a RoboCoop?
No, it was like a Kurama, and it did 30 litres an hour type thing. So it was like a big machine.
Yeah. And then what? So you shut that down because of lockdown? Yes, and the business couldn't get going, or what?
Yeah, I was ended up doing because I was doing a lot of sweet stuff, and then obviously ice cream's quite seasonal, and so I'd be catering off season, in the winter, and I just love doing more savoury as well, and I just always. What I love about cooking, I'm just always learning new things and different cuisines, flavour combinations, and I kind of I didn't want to do it as much anymore. Yeah. And I preferred going to people's houses, cooking dinners, doing pop-ups.
I love that because I think sometimes you've got to know when the right time to quit is. Yeah. Because there's one of those things which is like, there's some advice which is both right and wrong. So don't quit. Yeah. It's like, is right. Is like, just don't quit, keep going. Yeah. Is great advice. But, I'm a half pint, right? If I'm going to try and play fucking basketball, I should probably try and quit or be an Olympian swimmer. It's like, mate, get to react. Not saying that your ice cream wasn't going to go, but I think there is an art to knowing when to quit. You know what I mean?
And it served, I loved it at that time.
Soft served, yeah?
In soft served.
Sorry.
Totally.
Yeah. It had its place. And then, so you've got this kind of insatiable curiosity towards food and cooking. Go into getting the Instagram going and off the ground, because that's no easy feat. And just talk me through your first kind of 6 months of that. What did that look like? I'm just going to check the cameras.
Yeah. I went actually at first, so I did a little bit of Instagram, but not really that much. And then I went to, I wanted WME agency to represent me, and one of the agents just said, "Oh, well,
what's WME?
William Morris agency, so they're like a talent agency."
Right.
And
so you knew from the jump that you wanted these guys.
Yeah, I just my friend's brother was working there, and they were just saying this is the place to work or to be represented. And
who else do they look after?
They do a lot of
just asking for a mate.
No, they do, because they do a lot of commercial stuff. They might be a good one for you to ask or talk to. But it was it was quite.
So I get to have a rider for each podcast.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Why not?
No, I'm trying shit.
Coffee.
Yeah.
And the agent there told me, she didn't care where I'd worked. She didn't care. I think I had maybe my second book I had, so I took it to the meeting, and she didn't care about any of that. She just said, "Oh, how many followers do you have on Instagram?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Like only 800?" And I was so embarrassed, and she's just like, "Well, not interested really. You need to sort that out." And
what year was this?
This was so when would it have been? Because it probably could have been 2016 maybe. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking, but that's just a pretty picture. Like, how does anyone know I can cook from that picture? Like, that was sort of my idea behind it.
On Instagram.
Mm-hmm. I thought, how isn't it more important that the books or where I've worked from my CV? I thought that was more important than pretty pictures. But I listened to her, and I thought, okay, well, she seems to think it's important. I guess I should pay attention to that and learn how to, because at that point it was mainly photos. So, you know, putting myself out there more and so it was sort of steady building, gradual building it.
But how did you get, what's that now, 160,000, something like that?
Not quite 100, 155.
Round it up.
Yeah. And yeah, I sort of, I'd say it was in the last 4 years that it took off more.
Yeah.
Just understanding, I guess doing a lot of video and learning how to do video well, and I don't know, people just learning what makes the algorithm work. For me, it's clearly cheese. So a lot of cheese. Yeah, my family are always like, oh God, more cheese.
Yeah.
That's why there's a lasagna downstairs.
Wheel out the wheel, basically. Yeah, the Parmesan wheel. Yeah. Oi, oi, I am delighted to announce that the most banging kebab on planet Earth has just joined Uber Eats. Bababoom. It's banging. It's literally vavavoom for your taste buds. I smash the sweet potato hummus on the reg. The chicken kebabs are insane. I go to the one in Battersea Rise loads of my mates from Clapham just smash it all the time, and they've also got one out east in Stratford. And look, don't say I don't treat ya. If you use the code BOOMDAN40, you're going to get 40% off when you spend 20 quid or more. So yeah, please do that if you want some banging kebabs. And if you're a restaurant who's looking for an amazing delivery partner, then hit me up. Our partnership with Uber Eats, we can do some sick things behind the scenes. So please reach out. Thank you so much. How to get your challenger brand into more supermarkets and increase your current distribution in half the time. Range reviews are happening right now, right this millisecond. Sainsbury's, Waitrose, Tesco, Ocado, Co-op, all looking for new banging challenger brands. Don't miss this range review and have to wait another 6 months. It's long. Don't lose precious shelf space to competitors. Don't let your buyer pick another brand just because you didn't have a Grand Slam deck. Northstar Category Management help you create banging supermarket pitch decks, so good that buyers find it impossible to say no to. Challenger brands like Perfect Ted, Trip, Bulb & Co, Dash, all love Northstar. Look, I am so confident in Northstar transforming your brand. We've got an exclusive Hungry offer. Your first month for free. Yes, free. Plus, we're going to give you a free 30-minute consultancy session to see how your brand is currently performing in category. Click the link in the show notes to book your consultancy session and thank me later. You know, it's tricky because it's I think there's a fine art between creating the food or content that you want to put out, plus what's going to slap the algorithm to infinity and beyond.
Yeah, that's how you grow.
Really?
Just following the algorithm, like what works well. And as somebody who likes to create, recipes, it is frustrating sometimes because I think, this would be great, or I want to do a healthier dinner, for example. But instead I'll either put that through maybe a newsletter or, actually with the Saucy account, I've been able to do more healthy stuff, which has been great. So I've actually enjoyed that outlet because the algorithm is a little bit different on that, maybe, but and it's only beginning.
Yeah, so I'm asking this selfishly, so we've got videos, if I do a hospitality person on the podcast, so we're at 17,000 followers now.
Yeah.
Obviously, no idea really how to grow it. I've just been throwing spaghetti at the wall. And just,
I can have a look in. Not that I know.
Yeah, well, you've got way more of an idea than me.
Yeah.
But, so the hospitality episodes are always going to do well.
Yeah.
Because it's I think hospitality is a way bigger net than so for someone like Giles Brooke, who did Vita Coco, that to us in the Challenger brand little sphere he's a huge guest. But the North Star guys were there's only 8,000, I think there's about 9,000 active challenger brands in the UK.
Really? Okay.
Which is fuck all in the grand scheme of things. Obviously you've got teams, but the total addressable market's much smaller. So I'm never going to stop doing that content because I love it. But then my ego wants the 200,000 gazillion views.
Yeah.
Because it's a buzz. I'm not gonna lie, it's a huge buzz.
It's an addiction.
Oh, it's an addiction. I'm sat at the pub, not even listening to my mate. I'm yeah, bruv, this is booting off, and you just get kind of addicted to it.
Yeah, no, it is.
But it's I don't know.
There's a rush.
I don't know whether to do more of those hospitality episodes.
So those are the ones that do well for you.
Those are the ones that just boot off on the algo, but then there's the ones that and that's just purely ego metrics. But then there's the ones that as Hey. That are that kind of are the main crux of the podcast.
Yeah.
I suppose I've got my cheese on the left and my healthy dinners on the right. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so how did you manage that tension, or were you just wheeling out the cheese?
Wheeling out the cheese, yeah. And
really?
actually that built it. And what series do really well. And
so what sort of series would you do? Cheese.
So cheese, well, lasagna. What I like to put in my lasagna. So I've done a load of different lasagna combinations.
What's some of the bookiest lasagnas you've made?
What is the crazy... I mean, my style of cooking, I always want it to feel not weird, because I just genuinely like non-weird stuff myself. But what's the craziest? I mean, I've done a rocket pesto. It's not that crazy. I love using as many different vegetables as possible, and like encouraging people to just, more like veg sort of centered dishes. So I'll do a lot of different combinations and maybe some cheese. Yeah. Burrata features a lot.
Burrata, yeah. Like, burrata's like, it's kind of weird when that became big. It was probably about 2016, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, maybe from my little brain, but it's probably been going for quite a while, burrata. Yeah. But
stuff that I've done quite a few with tomozza.
But burrata's the most Instagrammable cheese in the world.
It's just beautiful.
Because it's like you slice it open. It's like a little creamy volcano. You know, it's.
I know who's not going to love watching
exactly. Yeah, no, it is. It's interesting how many foods have got big purely out of Instagram.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, avocado.
Yeah.
I don't know, everyone was eating it, but I genuinely think avocado works because it's green.
Yeah.
It's kind of true.
I know, things that are visually beautiful.
Yeah, sure. Like matcha. Imagine if matcha wasn't green. It's basically swamp water.
Yeah.
But I think there's actually something in that. There's like a whole psychological thing in it.
It's whatever your eyes are drawn to.
Yeah, because apparently you eat with your eyes first.
Yeah.
Apparently that's actually a thing, because there's again, what Rory's told me guys to get on, who's played with all the psychology of how we eat. And he was basically saying that he'll get strawberry, actually it's kind of like Bill Street, strawberry flavoured strawberry sorbet.
Yeah.
But he'll make it yellow and put it in a lemon.
Oh really?
So then there's a whole psychological trick.
Yeah, so your mind's
and like
just
the colour of food is fascinating. And I think there's a whole the Instagramification of food and what we eat is endlessly fascinating. So then you grow the following, and so it sort of has this sort of this compounding effect where you hit X at some point. What were some of the brand partnership deals you were doing, or like how did you monetize that before we got onto sourcing?
Yes. So I work, shocker, a lot of cheese brands. So like Grana Padano.
Do you know, I used to deliver cheese for a living.
Oh really?
Yeah. Do you know Harvey Brockless?
No.
Sure. I mean, I can tee you up with them. Yeah, I used to deliver. I don't actually like cheese. It's kind of a bit. I do. I like. I know it's very. Yeah, I know it's. I like Parmesan, and I like burrata. But any of this sort of stinky blue shit, no thanks.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, I used to deliver cheese. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, like Grana Padano, and then I worked with quite a lot of drink brands, like a lot of Italian ones actually. So quite a lot of Italian brands will come to me because I guess I'm doing a real mixture of kind of Mediterranean food, or like rosé brands, Dalesford, Menabrea beer.
And you were doing all the commercial deals yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you find that? Because that's something I'm going through now, which is
yes, it's a whole thing.
It's a
for sure.
palaver.
Like,
not palaver, but it's like it's not as.
You got to read your contract.
Yeah, exactly.
It's, you know what, it's just getting used to it really, and it's fine. I think what I always think with advertising is, just make it feel as natural as possible and as is in keeping with what you usually do, and it just shouldn't feel like too much of a sell, and it just should organically flow. Like cheese, for example, is such an easy one for me to work with because I'm using it all the time. But yeah, I think it's actually great, you know, constantly thinking of like new ways to promote a beer, and but these are all products that I genuinely do love. And I think it just, as long as it all is in keeping, sometimes there'll be a random thing, like I did an electric car once, which was fun.
Should have done an electric ice cream van to replace
that would have been good.
Yeah, that would have been bang on brand.
I was always like, power steering and a sound system.
yeah. I know it's just, it's so like good for me to understand how it all works. So you build the following, and you realise that cheese is
life.
Cheese is life. Cheese is the way.
Yeah.
And I'd love to understand how, like, I don't think people quite understand the creative process and how much fucking work goes in to each lasagna and or fill in the blank of other dishes.
Yeah, all the roots.
So it's like when we went to the shoot at Amelia's, not Amelia's, but a place in Battersea.
Yeah.
I walked in, it was like a war zone. And it's like, you see those reels on Bold Bean or your channel, and you just think, oh, this guy's all girls just locked up, cutting up some chorizo, some burrata, pish bash bosh.
Yeah, done.
You know, it's a fucking obscene amount of work.
Yeah.
Talk me through the sort of the creative process of how you're thinking of a dish, and then like all the work that goes into that 1 60-second reel. Because I don't think people, myself included, understand that.
It does. I mean, I think with something like Instagram, Instagram's changed so much in terms of obviously taking the still image to now everything being video, and having to learn what works with video. Like I had to learn all of that and learn, you know, what makes a great video, you know, what makes people want to stay engaged and watch it. And so it's like a constant learning, all of that. But so I'll either be inspired by a recipe or something I've eaten or an ingredient. I mean, it can be anything. And then I'm not organised enough at this part of my work. I quite often am doing the recipe on the day. Like I did the lasagna today, which is going to go out today at 6, I hope.
So you've already edited that as well?
No, I haven't edited it. I can edit it. I will edit it very fast. But is
that all on iPhone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just do it. I actually do it all in the Instagram app. And yeah, it is sometimes just, you know, I've got like, I'll be cooking and then I'll think, fuck, I haven't got a reel or something ready, because I do 3 a week. And
a bit like me with SD cards.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it is just this constant monster you're having to feed. And sometimes I'm caught short, or I'm having to make something and I'll just quickly go to a supermarket, grab a couple bits, and something will be cooking, or I'll be on a job and I'll be thinking, oh, where is the light? And, quickly film something. I mean, if you could see some of the weird, I shot something in my car a few weeks ago because I was driving down to Shropshire, and I put a white tablecloth on my passenger seat, and this whole school of kids just walked past being like,
so what did you put on the passenger seat there?
I put a cake there. So I was shooting the cake. So I made it, and then it needed to cool before I could slice into it. What cake was it? It was I think it was a caramelised pear olive oil cake. And I had some yogurt in the car, and then I got yogurt all over the gear stick because I dropped it. And then this whole class of kids go past saying, "Miss, she's got a knife in that car."
That's jokes.
And they were just thinking, who the hell is this weird person? And and I'm shooting. It looks like it's on a white table somewhere when really it's in my car. If you'd zoomed out, you would have thought this is.
I love how I think I just love the scrappiness of content.
Yeah.
And I think...
And making it look a certain way.
Well, yeah, but also everything you're seeing is, it's just, most of it is super... like, it's mad how scrappy you can get and still make it work. That, you know, the Eating with Todd guy, I think I've told you about him. Like, he does it all on his iPhone. Yeah. So it's like, he rocks up to these shoots and people are like, mate, like, where's the crew? And he's like, no, it's just on this, mate. Yeah. And I think, it's reassuring because this is getting this out every week. Is like getting one of these out every week is just scrap central. Yeah. You know, it's just like you can just.
But you can make it work.
You can make it work. Yeah, you can definitely make it work.
It looks great. You can make it work, and
it helps having lovely, places like this to record in. Let's get on to Saucy. So you've built the following. You've done the ice cream van that hasn't worked, or like you parted ways with it. Then talk me through the vision, the thought process to create Saucy, because I still think it's one of the best brand names. Have you got that trademarked?
This is a great question.
Yeah, sorry.
It's on my list. I don't have it trademarked. I've actually got a guy because I basically I hadn't trademarked Hungry. And then I was going to ask you about Hungry if you'd had it trademarked.
Yeah. Because I was basically like, I should probably get that trademarked. So I've basically no one on any sort of media can use Hungry. That's what I've basically. So I'm like, mate. I said to the geezer, I was like, cover me on fucking everything, mate. Courses, the full shebang. He's based up in Norfolk.
That. Okay, great.
It's about £700, and he'll do it all for you. You should do that because Saucy, I think.
Well, I'm worried that there's going to be like a porn site somewhere that I need to negotiate. Because there was for Neat.com.
That could be an interesting sponsorship deal. Chili sambal and porno.
Yeah, I know. But actually, it is free. I have checked. I've got that far.
Oh yeah, if it's and also Saucy, because there's no. Is that you've taken out the E, right?
It's just Y.
Is that how it should be? Yeah. Okay, maybe this is my dyslexic kicking in. So talk me about how you came up with the name, the vision for it.
Sure. I first started making a chili oil when I was on my Capri book shoot in Italy. And there was this amazing lady, Sri Lankan lady. We had this house, an Airbnb, but it was so much more beautiful than an Airbnb. It was just had blue and white tiles everywhere in the kitchen, head to toe, and a beautiful garden.
What was the garden like?
It was overlooked a cliff, and
Do you have the sea behind the cliff?
You had the sea,
wow,
beautiful sea view. It was in Anna Capri, which is the sort of bigger side of Capri.
Did it have was it like a big patio and a barbecue?
It was just everything. It used to be used for parties I think it was the 60s, and it was owned by this very eccentric Italian doctor on the island.
Wow.
And I just
Capri an island?
Yeah. It's an island just opposite Naples.
Naples isn't an island, is it?
No. Naples is in...
Sicily's an island, isn't it?
Yeah. But south.
There's a lot going on at the end of that boot, isn't there?
There's a lot. And it's in Campania, that the sort of district or area. And I met this lady, and she was very kindly making us food in the evening after the cookbook shoot. And she made this chili oil, which was so simple. And because of her roots being Sri Lankan, she used sunflower oil, not olive oil. So I was a bit more unusual there.
What's the difference? What does that do differently?
The flavour. It's just more of a neutral oil, and you can just flavour it much easier. Whereas olive oil, it's just quite specific, and it's got quite a strong taste to it. And I think if you're trying to do something, I think with fine with garlic and chili, but this had a slight. Firstly, it also fries much better, so you can get crispiness on the ingredients, and because it was fried, but fresh ingredients fried in the oil. And if you did it with olive oil, it's a much heavier oil, fattier. Even though it's better for you, it's not great to fry, deep fry. And she served it with tomato rigatoni, and we just had it on the side. And it was obviously in Italy doing...
Why? So how come this Sri Lankan lady was there?
she just was sort of the housekeeper / chef. And
right.
she, I think they offered it to us. They said, because my whole family came for the shoot, obviously, because they were like free holiday.
Yeah. And was this a self-published book or no?
No, this wasn't.
That deal had been done with the book publishers.
With the publisher, yeah.
So they basically got you this banging gaff.
Yeah, and we could shoot it because we need to do all the lifestyle shots.
Yeah. That one, yeah. Need to go somewhere good for lifestyle shots, darling.
So it was exactly.
I'd absolutely milk it as well.
This is a nice place.
Yeah, I'd do exactly the same thing.
And then she was just incredible. A great cook anyway. And I just love this concept of something very simple, but textured. Making something, to be honest, it was already delicious, this pasta, because you can imagine the Italian tomatoes at their best, or September, and delicious. But she would, and just having that extra sort of vehicle of flavour. And so I kind of had that in my mind, and I started making my own version of it. And, when I do dinner parties for clients or friends, I'd always have a pot of chili oil, like a similar version. And because it was so simple, the whole thing, but yet very effective. And then I made this, then lockdown happened, and I had this, what did I have? I thought, this is a good opportunity to maybe do another book. So this would have been my third book, which was all centered around sauces being what makes food delicious, and being, whether it's a marinade or some kind of pasta sauce or dressing that makes simple, healthy food delicious. And so that's where the idea of Saucy, and that was called Saucy. And I just liked how it was a funny name, really, and cheeky and not serious at all. But also, kind of described it very well. And I actually put one chili, or maybe two, I think I put 2 chili oil recipes in there. And in lockdown, I did a video with the chili oil, a bit like the chili sambal, actually, because I created a...
Sorry, what's the difference between the sambal and the oil?
So the oil, it's not actually... It can't be sold, it's not being sold at the moment. That's the one I've taken off the list.
I'm just saying, what is the difference between an oil and a sambal in general?
Oh, so lots of different types of sambals, but this one
what does sambal actually mean?
It's like another type of sauce, basically. It's or paste. Quite often it's sort of like a very kind of intense paste that you can get, like in Bali. They have sambals quite often, but also in African cooking you can have sambal.
Okay, with you, yeah.
But mine is more kind of Asian. I wouldn't say it's... They're very kind of Asian influenced, would we say, but they're not from any specific one.
That's why I rate them. Do you know what I mean? That's why when I first tried them with Amelia, it's uncategorizable. If that's a word.
It's a great one.
yeah. Uncategorizable. Yeah. Say that in a Tesco's meeting to the category director. Oh, fuck me, where do I start with that?
Yeah.
But I do think, as I've said, like my friends who I did a bit of work with, the White Mousey, I don't think they're kind of from the same tree of product, but totally different. And like the flavours in that is completely different to theirs. And I think there is almost this sort of magic in adding your own fresh ingredients and as you say, sort of a hodgepodge melting pot of different ingredients that goes into Saucy is what makes it so unique.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, it's been such a...
Just going to check these again, by the way. You keep... I'm listening,
Anyway, so I put one recipe, the sambal, on my website during lockdown, and it was, I think after a few months, it was the most made recipe on the site. And I thought, well, that's a bit weird. Like, it's not the easiest recipe to make. And, there's a lot of chopping involved. Everyone wants very easy, simple food, and judging by Instagram, and actually this was a bit more technical. Well, you had to focus on it and stuff. And I thought, well, maybe I should just bottle it and take it off the website. So I did, and I thought, I've been doing catering for ages, and this was a way of reaching more people with my cooking, and really, and cheaper as well. You're not having to have me. My tummy is rumbling. talking about it.
Yeah, no worries.
I thought, well, this is like a way of just reaching more people and more affordable. You get a jar, you can have however many meals, and I am still making it, so it's still technically, well, fully my cooking.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We were talking before we hit record about... There's a sort of, and it's a sort of a pain.
Let me get a bit of water.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah.
Go for it. There's almost a pain and a labour of love that goes into doing things the right way.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Preach it, sister. But the let's talk about that pain, because I know you've been trying, and I think we must have been about 2 years ago, I think, when we did the shoot with Emilia. I think you just started it, and you've gone through 3 manufacturers, and I don't think people talk about it enough, about the pain of manufacturing, and just...
Because it's
like it's the tension between like scale and escape velocity versus putting the product on the shelf. Because so, for example, you could outsource it and you could get it into the M&S down the road there,
right.
But you know that the product on that shelf is not as good as it can be.
Yeah, and
that is a tension like to play with. Like, talk me through your first manufacturer. How did that go?
So I mean, I think. Did I have panic attacks with him? Probably. I felt like I needed therapy after him, but
because
I never got it.
We got it now. We're on the sofa.
Yeah, you were on the sofa. I feel I was just starting out, and I actually firstly outsourced the whole thing. So I created it, and he said, "Oh, you've got to do 4 products minimum." So that's why I created 4.
Sorry, actually, can I just for listeners' sake, can we go back a step just to understand the complexities of how that's made?
Yeah.
Because it is fresh ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah, just quickly for like a couple of seconds, just detail that, and then we'll get into
roughly the process.
Yeah, just because why you can't just flog that to a manufacturer.
Well, so I've simplified the recipe now, but a lot of stages of frying, and because of all the different ingredients required, so that a good proportion of it is using fresh ingredients, and they're fried, and they all have different cooking temperatures, and where you're not burning something, you've got to focus on it, and I mean, I've simplified it now so that you can pretty much do it all in one go, like chuck it all in with very strict timer. But it's not that easy I think if you do it in a bigger batch, like a massive batch for a manufacturer, they just want something, that's too much for them. And it's too artisan. And I think I was sort of saying to you earlier that the ideal is if I had something that was a hot chili sauce, for example, or a fermented one. Maybe fermented is too complicated, but if it was just blend it, done, bottle. Whereas with mine, there's whole creating it, and the chilies, the long red chilies that I use, which are fresh, some of them are hot and some of them aren't in batches. So I've got to regulate the heat. With dry chilies, and each batch I try, because obviously consistency is so important. But so there's the whole making of it, plus because there are bits in it versus oil, I'm having to, for consistency, when you fill the jars, this is boring, but when you fill the jar, you've got to separate the bits to the oil, and a manufacturer just usually has said, oh, but that's too time consuming. Or with the first guy that was doing it, he'd fill it so unequally, or oil would be seeping out of the jars and the lids weren't fastened properly, because with oil gets out of everything. So just lots of things like that, really. And breakages.
Yes, I think it's
really fun.
It's just a whole panoply of different problems coming your way with that. And so then how did you first find these manufacturers? What was your...
Just, talking to different people. Like the first one I found was making it from the get-go. And I just always thought, oh, great, I've made it, I've handed it over.
What do you mean, as in he was just doing it?
So I sent him the recipes and then...
But he was already making oil or something?
Yes, he actually specialises in chili.
Oil?
Yeah, chili oil.
Oh, so you must... So
I thought I'd struck gold. I thought it was great. This is part of the plan.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have a vat of oil overfilling in my kitchen, spilling deliveries, people, asking for jars at my front door. No, it's done. It's off. And then just...
So how did it go so wrong if this basically is his speciality? It's not like you're going to make some bloke who does... hobnobs.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It was like...
I thought I'd got, and also nuts are a real problem in this country, and he dealt with nuts, so I thought it was great. He's one of the few in this country that do.
Where do I sign? Yeah.
But he expanded his company very quickly, I think, when I joined, and it was just impossible to get him on the phone, and I'd never done this before, having to call someone 10 times. Like, I felt so needy. And but I had people asking like where their order was, and so I needed to speak to him, and it was just everything you could imagine went wrong. And then I think he dealt with it for about 6 months, and
picked up the time. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Is that the cat or?
It might be. It's rustling. So
Yeah.
And then I just thought, actually, I'm going to take over production in my sister works in property, and so I started making it in one of a house that she hadn't started development on. So I was making it there for 6 months with always the intention to find someone else to make it, and I still found...
So talk me through like the production days of making it yourself. Like, what would a typical day look like? And... maybe listen to the Hungry podcast. I'm joking. But the how would you keep yourself, like, what's the vision at that point? Because I think there's a lot of people listening to this right now.
I mean, I was terrified to start to do it myself. I just had images, as I said, of this is not what I pictured when I started it. And I always thought, it'll be sort of, my passive income coming in and it's all good. I've done it, created. And then suddenly I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to take over production, and how hard is it going to be?
What kept you digging at that? Like, what's the spark in your soul? Like, what's the... People
were buying it, kept me going, really. Every time I get a sale, I'd, think, oh, well, someone's liking this and it must be good. And, when people would write to me and I'd have repeat customers, that is what spurred me on. I kept on thinking, well, there's something here and I've got to keep going. I didn't always think that. I definitely had moments where I almost quit properly in 2023 in the summer. I just thought, I went on holiday, I thought I can't do this anymore. It's too stressful doing the production, and I had a chef helping me, but all the jarring, because the orders were getting, I'd be doing a few hundred and at a time, and that was a lot for me, just me to be doing, plus doing the Instagram, trying to...
You're one woman band, quite literally. Yeah. So whereabouts were you on holiday?
I was again in France.
Okay, if you're in France, you got a nice, probably, I don't know, Negroni or a daiquiri, I don't know what the tipple is, but you're sat...
Negroni.
Negroni, they are fucking amazing, aren't they? So I know they're kind of in vogue, or they're swooning into vogue, but like they are fucking good. You're having the sun setting, probably some olives or something on the table.
Yeah, some crisps too.
Some crisps, yeah. Crisps abroad. Why are crisps abroad so good? I actually thought of doing a business which was absolutely awfully bad, but basically it would be a subscription service where you get different crisps through the post from foreign countries with a selection of homemade sauces.
Actually, for dipping?
Yeah, so like saucy would be one, and then you'd get some, I don't know, jambon lays are so good abroad.
Yeah.
And the barbecue lays with the black packet is fucking banging as well.
Really?
Oh yeah. So that was my idea, but anyway, it sort of just never happened.
They're so good abroad, crisps.
Yeah, crisps abroad with the...
Mine are hamon, ruffles.
Yeah, ruffles.
Oh, Ruffles.
They've got the
So good.
yeah, crystal ball is so good. They're so good. In Costa Rica though, they did something fucking peculiar where they did. So imagine like they did like a collaboration in a bag. So you'd get like Dorito. Imagine getting Doritos, Skips, and Knick Knacks all in one bag. I was like, it was too much of a trip. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, sorry.
Sadly, you didn't do that.
Yeah.
You could still.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, you know, yeah, hungry for crisps. That could be interesting. But yeah, so you're sat on the veranda or whatever, and you're almost about to quit. What you can go right to quit. You can go left to go back to the producing it yourself in a dilapidated flat. Like, why do you pick the option? Like, what's going through your...
I mean, the customers really helped so much. So it's so bizarre. Like every time I'd hit a low thinking, I can't do this anymore. What am I doing? Like I'm slogging my guts out for this. This specific time I had a Mahalo, the distributor, approached me and sent me this email saying that they loved the product and would I be up for, they wanted to take me on. And so I thought, oh, well, she's got an interest and really, like, clearly sees there's something in it if she's so, very much, people love Mahalo and so many great products.
That's Tara.
Tara.
Yeah, she's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
She does bread and jam as well, doesn't she?
Yes.
I've got so much time for her.
Yeah, she's great. And so I just thought, oh, maybe, a bit of time away. So I had this holiday and started drumming up kind of... She actually wanted me to change quite a lot about the product if I were to sign with them, which was all such great advice.
Such as?
Change the size of the jar.
What was the size of the jar?
It was a bit bigger than that, so it was a 300ml, now it's like...
And what was the RRP at 300ml?
It was the same.
What was the rest of my
It was the same.
questions?
No, it was the same. It was $8.95.
Yeah.
And then now it's gone down to $7.95
yeah.
when it got smaller. And also the branding I've made a bit slicker. Took a bit of time doing that. Put a sticker, little things, but make the whole thing look more like a brand. And so but I didn't end up signing with Mahalo in the end because I think she wanted me to change it even more, and I think she wanted me to fit into a slightly different category, and I just knew that it was selling, so I didn't want to change it that much. So I sort of said, "See you later" at some point.
Yeah. And so the customers were you're at this sort of left or right fork in the road. So you decided to go back to the, as I said, the dilapidated kitchen.
Yeah.
It's
just the juggling it really, the production versus juggling, if I did a catering job or an Instagram and keeping the Instagram going, as we said, it takes a lot of work. So it was just, those were always the moments when I think, can I keep on doing this? It's a lot.
And you decided to because the customers were there.
Yeah. So every time a little, I'd get a little pound or cha-ching on my Squarespace when I had doubts. And that always helped.
Yeah. Money talks.
Like, oh, bloody hell, I've got to keep going doing this. Or someone would send me a really nice review and about like, oh yeah, I put it on everything, and just let me know if you stop, I'll stock up. Or
I mean, you can literally have it on fucking anything.
Yeah,
I mean,
hope so.
Yeah, it's maybe even vanilla ice cream could be a bit of a, because olive oil on ice cream's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't understand how that works.
I haven't done that. I could try. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Whatever. There's savoury ice cream's a thing.
Yeah.
Well, it's a thing in Hess and Blumenthal's restaurant, which isn't really a thing for everyone. But so your first manufacturer sounds like it's a game set match. Goes Pete Tong. Second, third. Talk me through those.
So the other two, I think one wanted me to do massive production on it, but again, just the samples that were coming through weren't good enough. And I've been doing it for over 2 years now, and the customers I have know how it tastes, and I want to stay as loyal to that as possible. And I care about the product, especially because I'm making it myself. Each one, it's got to be good. I'm selling flavour, so it's got to have flavour in it.
Oh, I'm selling flavour, yes.
And because I really market it as, if you want to be healthier and have simple food, you're tired at the end of the day, just chuck on a couple of spoons and you've got some broccoli, maybe a bit of fish, maybe rice, noodles, have that, done. And it's simple, and you don't, because I think from Instagram, I know that everyone wants to have delicious food, but they want it to happen like that. And so that was the thinking behind it, but still something you could have every day to make simple food more saucy.
Yeah, well, that's why I think there's so much legs to it eventually. It's because you can have it on literally everything.
Yeah.
The occasion, the number, a bit like what Amelia's done with bowl bean, is she's taken the humble bean and said you can basically have this 5-6 times a day.
Yeah.
So I think brands where you can, how many consumption occasions are there?
Yeah.
I could have that breakfast, lunch, dinner.
Totally.
The dessert is to be confirmed.
I won't be offended if you say no there.
But you have that on eggs, have that on a sarnie, bit of chicken.
Pizza.
Noodles, oh my god, yeah, pizza's actually quite interesting.
Mix it into a salad dressing for that extra level of flavour and depth.
And I actually think there's real, depending on what brand you want to build, but I think having a profitable business where you actually make and you can command a high RRP, actually make good margin on it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I know there's the whole margin versus scale things, a conversation all the time, but the amount of, I think, brands that are trying to just grow gangbusters by raising their money, making bugger all margin. As I don't know if you listened to the Giles Brooke episode, but his whole thing was the way, if you want to actually get a big exit now, or doing these, I was going to say cool things. I mean, running out, that caffeine's running out. Do some cool things, but the way you sell is by having a profitable business.
Yeah.
And what he's basically saying is start making profit earlier on. So I think there's so much in that. It's so much in this, legs in this, and then. In terms of actually getting into the first few, you're in Pans, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is that with Michelle?
Yes. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, you know Michelle?
I do, yeah. So she was our, they were one of my favourite stores when I was doing Money Life.
Oh, okay.
So obviously you go there on a weekend, you're going to shot a lot of peanut butter, a lot of saucy, because people are there to spend their coin.
Yeah. Got such a loyal
I think it's one of the most amazing. I don't know what they've done there, but because it's David Josephs, I think, is the guy who owns it, and he was saying he used to just drive past it. He used to work in energy. Oh, really? Energy oil.
Yeah.
One of the same shit.
Same thing.
And he was like, I wanted once when I retire, I'm going to do this whole thing up, and he's kind of transformed it. Yeah,
it's looking great. It's really looking great.
And so how did you go about getting these customers?
So a lot of things. I mean, I started the business. It helped having Instagram to start it up, and get the word out. And a lot of very kindly people that followed me were willing to give it a go, try it, buy it, and that was a great launch pad. And then getting into delis, which was always my plan to start off with, that took a lot longer, and I feel like it's a tough mafia to hit, and they want to be with a distributor, and so if you're sort of approaching by yourself, you've really kind of got to court them a bit and give the samples in. My first deli was, I lived on Columbia Road, or just off Columbia Road in East London, and there was this beautiful deli called Hackney Essentials, and they were the first people to, but it took a few months for them to try it. That's the thing, it takes a while for people to try it. So you might be all excited, they'll agree to try it, and then 3 months later they still haven't tried it. So, but they took it on, and then I slowly started just approaching other places, but they took a while, and it's in 25 shops now. And Panzers I got through a distributor. So I'm with.
So you with a distributor now?
Two, one's Artisan Food Club.
Yeah.
And the other one is GR foods in sort of Devon, Cornwall.
Yeah.
At the moment. Yeah, and that's it.
And then are you looking for more, or?
I am looking for more. Yes, I want to push. So I want to kind of push a bit more farm shops. Yeah. A bit bigger. So I feel like I'm ready for the next tier.
Can you? Because there's loads. There's like Cotswold Fair if they're listening.
Yes.
Laura.
Yes. I have. That's so funny. I have sent stuff to Laura.
Oh, yeah. She's amazing, and was really supportive of Islands when we were doing stuff with Islands.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what? But are you at the size now where you can? I think service those guys, because that's another thing as well.
Exactly.
It's
totally.
Like, oh god, it's fucking stressful, isn't it?
I know. I'm just waiting for my next Selfridges order, and I know that's going to clean me out of stock.
Oh really? Yeah.
But they've been amazing, and I joined with Selfridges in September last year.
Yeah.
And that's been so great for just visibility and doing samples, because I'm only a sort of one woman band. I haven't done many like sampling or anything. I've just done everything either through Instagram or creating content for the Saucy Instagram. Yeah. But I went to Selfridges and I've done a few samplings where I'm like serving it on noodles for people. I'm meeting customers, and that's great. It was like one of the best sort of boosters I could ever do, because I think about 85% of people that tried it bought it, and I'd never done an exercise like that before. I mean, the really obvious things that I haven't done, because I know that's sort of. But
I also think there's the not so obvious things. What do you serve it on? Because I think I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, I just do noodles.
But the amount of people who would serve it on just a fucking wooden spoon.
Yeah, it's too intense.
It's too spoon, like.
Even if you're good with chili.
Yeah. I think that's what I was serving it on when I was doing the white mousey stuff.
Really?
Yeah, which was.
No, I just do silly, soba or rice noodles.
Yeah, but I think that's a real like valuable insight into what's the consumption occasion.
Yeah.
And most people, and I think people when they're trying new products, they need some sort of context. So back to this links back to the Polish Nando's, right? So I was like, sorry, this sounds.
All roads lead.
Yeah. Back to Polish Nando's. So I was like, if say we were trying to create 100 sites of Polish Nando's.
Yeah.
This is what I was asking Rory, like, what would you create? And he was like, well, we'd need to have something that gives context to people. So we're 1 foot in and 1 foot in the familiar, 1 foot in the new.
Yeah.
So we'd create something that people kind of get. So we thought of like a schnitzel burger. I don't know. Is schnitzel's kind of Polish?
You do have schnitzel.
Yeah. So that is an example of like we get chicken burgers.
Yes.
You get them in with the schnitzel. Familiarity, but then once they're in with the schnitzel burger, then you can get them onto some fucking nutty goulash.
Yeah.
Right. With the noodles, it's like people are going to be having noodles 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Maybe not that many, but
I mean, great.
Yeah. Maybe once or twice a week, or pasta, and it's like getting people chili sambal, saucy chili sambal. It's like, oh, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Oh, we need some sort of familiarity context. The noodles is genius. I think that's when I saw it when I reached out, as I saw you serving it. I think it was around that time you done the selfish things. I was like, that is genius. Like, it's so easy just to serve things on a fucking spoon, and it's like, well, what do I do with that? It's like, and it is, again, it's something simple, but it's something powerful. And then once they're in, then they can, play jazz with the sambal and start putting it on all manner of different things.
Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, just it's such a mixed crowd as well that go to Selfridges. So, and just people who are really like, I can handle spice, and then you have them coughing.
You can handle spice, mate.
And I'm like, okay, are you sure? You have to kind of. I mean, they're not blow your head off anyway, but it's just quite jokes. The crowd, and they want to taste them all. I mean, it's so. I love doing them actually.
And what's the difference between the three: the peanut salsa, the smoked cashew, and the chili sambal?
So chili sambal is no nuts, but spicy, sesame, and no sugar in that as well. They're all vegan. The peanut salsa hotter. You've got bird's eye chili in that. more of like a tiny slap in the face, but in a good way. And obviously nutty, more ginger. And then because I've been working in food for so long, I know that not everyone likes spice. And so I did a more garlicky one for the no spice people, which is the smoked cashew. So smoky, smoked garlic, cashew, miso, sesame, a little bit of maple syrup, soya sauce.
Why do people love miso?
It's got that umami.
But what does umami do to your flavor taste buds? Like, I get it when I eat it. I know everyone's like, oh, it's the fifth wonder of the world. Sorry, not fifth wonder of the world. Fifth flavour? Fifth flavour taste thing, yeah.
I think it's... Why do people love it so much? Well, because there's sort of like... It's that salty, sweet flavour that people... I think it can be a bit addictive. It's like, it appeals to a lot of people. But then, I think it's maybe... For me, it's that salty, sweet combo. You know, I mean that's as technical as I can.
No, I'm just thinking about like why, because I think MSG is a lot of umami.
Yeah.
As in like that's basically what it is. It's just adding it onto the.
Yeah.
It makes it kind of the food addictive.
Yeah.
Have you been to Fallow?
Yeah.
You know they've got the fowl chicken place.
I haven't been.
Oh my god! Yeah. So they've got chicken. They basically got their own fried chicken joint behind.
Have they?
Called Fowl, which is fucking hell. Like it is outrageously good. But I think they do put MSG on their wings because I couldn't help myself when I got to the wings. So like outrageously good.
I don't use MSG in any of that, but
the umami is what makes it addictive, right? Okay, interesting.
I think it's that kind of. It's the combination of flavours plus that little fermentation as well with something like miso that makes you just think, I don't know, it kind of, the depth of flavour, you know, a bit like also you get with mushrooms.
Yes.
It's that kind of depth. Like if you put a mushroom powder in a vegan dish, you get that same satisfaction that you would maybe from meat.
Yeah. A few more things, because then we'll begin to wrap this up. I'm absolutely loving this, Nina. I'm learning so much. I want to talk about how these book deals.
Yeah.
Because at some point I want to do like I think I've talked about this before, like basically a big fuck off book like this, like a coffee table book. It has to be heavy. I want all the hungry branding, and it's basically like a business cookbook, right?
Amazing.
So like I would say you want to like, and I want it in every single Challenger brand's office. That would be the goal.
That.
So it's like, Stu from Minor Figures, his one thing is bite off more than you can chew like hell.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's like the three things that build Minor Figures. Next page is Paul Ainsworth. Make it happen together. You know, and then I've got the hundreds of guests I've done. But how do you go about doing that?
So I mean, it starts with the idea, obviously, and being very passionate about it and knowing it inside and out, I would say. And looking what else is out there. That's the minute I have an idea for a book, I just straight away go to all the bookshops and see, is there something similar? What is the current obsession? Because I mean, specifically with cookbooks, there are trends, right? It's always changing. Whether even if it's a sort of trend where a chef might be on the front cover, whereas now putting whoever's written the book on the front cover is completely out. It's all about, we went through illustration for a while.
Yeah, it's a bit like Ottolenghi.
Yeah.
Like you don't ever see his face on it, do you?
No.
Yeah. His cookbooks are
so great.
Good. Wow, good. Yeah, they're banging, yeah.
So amazing. But so I'd say, I also think, look, for me, I've always loved things that don't date. So I love the River Cafe. I mean, this sort of feels a bit dated now, but when I was doing my first cookbook, it was River Cafe 2. And there was just something about that book. It's not that dated now, but it was made, I want to say it's about 20 years ago now, but 10 years ago, it's still hand dated. And it's just the way they've shot it, the photos, just are classic and timeless. And I think if you can create something that will last, that people will just constantly want to buy, so always having in the back of your mind, okay, how can I make this that it really has the potential to just keep on growing and not be just a 1-year book.
And how did you do that because you did Paris and...
So I did Saint-Tropez and Capri.
Yeah.
Because I'd grown up in that part, going to that part of France. How did I do? Well, with that, with Saint-Tropez, it was a very famous area, and I loved the style, that kind of like 60s Brigitte Bardot in the 50s, 60s era, and it
Who's Brigitte Bardot?
So she's a babe, French babe.
Yeah.
She's like a model actress in the 60s and 50s in France, and I mean, you should look her up. She's amazing. You'd probably recognise her in pictures, and she made Saint-Tropez famous. And she did a couple of famous films. She did And God Created Women, which was, I mean, it's an interesting film anyway, but it's not like, it doesn't really go anywhere, but it was all set in Saint-Tropez, and there are just so many amazing stories from that era of the fishing village, and restaurants and all the stories behind them, like Cinq, which is pretty big now, which is a restaurant on the beach.
That's 55?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there. I went there a couple of years ago.
Yes, that started obviously in the 50s.
Yeah.
And
Cinq sounds so much better than 55, doesn't it?
Yeah. Everything sounds better in French.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But yeah, they were filming that film, And God Created Women, on the beach, and I think it was just a little beach shack at that point, and the film crew used to eat at this little shack. It had no electricity, and eventually more and more people started loving the food that was coming out of this beach shack, and then it eventually started growing, and they had this philosophy saying, oh, don't worry, we'll always find another chair. And so it grew, and now it's this very famous...
Wow, that's a beautiful little phrase.
Yeah.
I think it's about how you grow businesses.
Yeah.
Like, we'll always find another chair. We'll always find another saucy customer. Or that's where I approach the podcast. It's like, I just get one new person a week.
Yeah, totally.
Then 52 people a year. 50, they tell one of their friends it's,
Yeah, it snowballs.
In snowballs. But I think just having that one new chair a week is such a nice little...
It's so nice,
such an easier way of fucking getting your head around growing a business, isn't it? Yeah.
Completely. And then eventually they got electricity. But what I think in a roundabout way with that first book, it was so specific to that time, and I related it to all the food that is made there, like all the Provençal cuisine, the classic traditional dishes. One, they're very healthy because it's all Mediterranean, a lot of olive oil, fresh vegetables, but they've not really changed. And so that book, I felt, could be moved through time a little bit because it was quite classic with the concept. Plus, it was just such a nostalgic sort of time, and the style, and these wild parties they'd have in the 60s in Saint-Tropez, big dinners, fish restaurants. And there was always a lot of intrigue with the stories, and Brigitte Bardot. And
when you say intrigue with the stories,
just I guess at that time when it was becoming famous, the town, a lot of famous people were there.
Yeah, I mean the 60s in London is like the period that intrigues me the most. Like that as what they call it, the swinging 60s, because we come out 1945, World War II ends. Then you basically got 10 years. 15 years, which sounds like a lot, but when you say basically 10 years ago was 2012, 13 years ago was 2012, it's fuck all time in the grand scheme of things. When you're in that kitchen, that's how long it was. It's like that 2012 feels like yesterday to me.
Yeah.
Maybe not yesterday, but like, that's a Beatles song as well. But as in the Beatles were in the 60s, I was about to get onto the Beatles. And I love that period of time because it was like this sort of explosion of like freedom, colour, creativity, like complete independence. And it was before it kind of got all like super money. Like obviously there was money going around, but it feels like that period of time is timeless.
Yeah.
Like the music from that period of time.
The music, the fashion.
Like everything is from, you've got the Stones, the Monkees, the Beatles, the fashion, not that I'm some sort of fashionista, but like, you know, I can imagine wearing a cravat one day. If I'm going to San Francisco. And I think it is interesting, whereas a lot of the bands, you know, since then come and go, or they're not as many.
It's not
It's iconic, yeah.
And there was, so for example, you mentioned the Stones, like Mick Jagger got married in Saint-Tropez to his first wife, Bianca Jagger, and there's this whole story. I bought this book which told quite a few of these stories, which was really interesting. And there was this whole scene of the day he got married to Bianca Jagger, and she was in a white suit, and he got married in the main church, which is quite iconic to all the postcards, you know, you see it. And they had an argument, and the whole town knew about it, and this was all on the wedding day, and it was all quite public, I guess. And so there are just great little stories from that time, because it's such a tiny town as well. Everyone knows everything.
I think the final thing I want to wrap up with is just Paris.
Yeah.
Because you wrote a book about, it was an ebook about Paris?
I did like a guide.
A guide.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, I was speaking to Todd about this, about Paris versus, basically what are the best cities in the world for food.
Yeah.
And we were sort of debating New York versus London, and London versus, basically saying London's pretty much the best in Europe.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Paris versus London. Sorry.
I think that London's the best. I do think that. But Paris is, I think in the last year, 2 years, is having a real moment. And I think there's more interesting restaurants opening up, and I don't know, I feel like they've stepped up.
Because you've just been in Paris, haven't you, watching, or Poddy, watching Maribel State. Is that, they're not French, are they, Maribel State?
No, they're English.
Oh, they're English?
Yeah. I couldn't get tickets.
Oh, you couldn't get tickets?
Yeah.
So what did you do?
So I was saying to my mate, I was like, I really want to go. And she said, well, let's look where else they're playing. And so Paris is so easy to get to, obviously, for us. And
oh, so you can get tickets in the UK?
Yeah. It's sold out. So
that's why I might have to start thinking about that.
Yeah.
As in,
it's so easy.
Yeah.
Also so fun to go there, and you know, I did a pop-up there last February, just in a flat. I rented an Airbnb and did 2 nights pop-up, and like a kind of little supper club, and it was just, you know, going to all the markets there is the quality of everything is in all the shops is a level above, I would say. I think buying the produce.
What are the supermarkets like? Because I think our supermarkets are the best.
Yeah, I wasn't going to as many supermarkets. I was more doing like independent.
Yeah, that's actually good doing it. If Nina Parker's doing a supper club and going to Aldi in Paris, it's a bit off-brand, isn't it?
I went to. They had like what's really, and this is similar to what we do with farmers markets, but they had, you know, a square where they'll have like a big market, and that produce is pretty high end, I'd say. And no, I think London's better. Yeah, I do. But I think it's still, you know, reason enough to go and try out a load of places. I think even the supermarkets, like the supermarkets we've got over here, like the standard of that is so high. It's cheaper in Paris though.
Really?
Yeah, so when if I do a catering job out there, which I don't do often, but if I am doing it in France, I've noticed it's like, it's probably a third cheaper, the whole thing.
Wow.
Yeah, the produce.
I've absolutely loved that, Nina. It's been such a joy speaking to you. I think you're onto something with this.
Thank you.
And I think it's going to go places. The product's amazing. The brand name's amazing. You've got the social media presence. And I'm excited to see where you can take it. Because I think you can take it big places.
You. Well, this has been so cool. Thank you for asking me. It's been a real pleasure, and thank you for liking Saucy as well.
That's all good. Wicked. Let's wrap that up. That was